There's a feeling that you get after a conversation that not only reassures you that you got your words out in a timely manner, but also that the person you're engaging with received what you said. Look at conversations as a dance, a sort of trade-off, with one person dominant, telling stories, making everyone laugh, telling everyone about what they did and things of that nature, and the other submissive, maybe listening, giving heartfelt reactions and things of that nature. Sometimes it's balanced, with both people leading the dance with the same force and enthusiasm, which ultimately builds this sort of chemistry within the dynamic that you can't explain. A hunch is that it's the rhythm, the tempo, how fast you go on the dance floor, and how long you stayed. There's a sort of synchronization you get from those really good conversations. It almost feels like you're just flowing even when displaying complex ideas. I myself have been on the bad end of that dance floor though, leading the person to a climax that never really reached its full potential, all because I was too scared to let myself be seen. And I think that's really it. The way the dance becomes bland and has no rhythm is literally by you stepping out of the dance way too early. See, I was relying too much on what I thought was the best thing to say in the conversation, what was the most appropriate thing to say, what the other person wanted to hear. Relying too much on historical evidence being past conversations and how that went, how the algorithm of what I led within the conversation, how it landed, and letting that lead within the conversations within the future and present moment. And I think that's it. You lose the rhythm within any dance that you have when you start relying on rehearsals. Trying to illustrate complex ideas become fun until you're trying so hard to push the topic down someone's throat, to define what you mean instead of letting it be interpreted. To shy away from what you really think can just become another Google definition. There was a moment when I was 18 watching a Nipsey Hussle interview, and I felt this feeling, one that I still get to this day. He articulated ideas in an intelligent, clear manner, on topics that could have easily been explained by anyone with a brain and a bit of research. The difference was his passion. He didn't rely on what was appropriate to say with what he was talking about. He relied on his own experience, his own understanding, and why he came to those conclusions. The words no longer needed to sound smart when the experiences behind it were far more intelligent than any article could provide. And while watching the interview, I couldn't shake the feeling that Nipsey Hussle literally grew up on the same roads as me, the same area code. I felt like I was seen. I felt like he had already listened to me by the things that he was saying, and that connection just sparked within the interview. And bear in mind, I was doing push-ups at the time. I'm very serious about my push-ups. But I had to just stop, and I admired what he was saying and how he was saying it. It was different. I felt a genuine connection, not because of how much I related to him, but how sincere I could tell he was being. I felt like in a rare moment in my life that someone understood my own struggle without having to listen to me. And that came from his honesty, not fearing the embarrassment or shame from what he said, but using it as a tool to connect. The impact comes from that ability to express without relying on sounding intelligent, without relying on the research, without relying on being liked, the courage to be disliked within conversations. It's important. Yes, display complex ideas accordingly, but the way that you truly engage and connect to someone has been shown plenty of times with speakers and people within interviews. You let your words be felt, not just heard. I want you to picture someone that you're close with in your head right now, and think about why you're close to that person. It doesn't come from you sounding intelligent all the time. More or less, it comes from you sounding stupid, showing your human side, being honest with the person. With Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan's relationship, it came from him not being shy to sound stupid, asking questions. Michael Jordan reported that he would call him at 5 a.m, asking basketball questions, things of that nature, so he could grow his knowledge. Had Kobe wanted to sound intelligent, and Michael Jordan would have probably passed up on him, because the arrogance would have breathed through his tone. Him being honest about his intention and wanting to learn is what built that connection, is what made Kobe Bryant Kobe, and not just another famous basketball player trying to ask the greatest basketball player of all time a question. Sincerity and genuinity, I think it's an energy. I don't think it's just words. I think it's how you come across, your tone, your stagnance, your willingness to just be yourself, to wait, to pause, to ask the other person about their life. In a world where we're so fast-paced, people want you to connect with them. I think we're so much in our own heads to the point where we forget that. And we forget that people just want that intimacy within conversations where it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like you're just waiting until it's your turn to speak. But you feel like you're engaging someone in a topic that could connect both of you. I think those conversations are the ones that are truly beautiful and the ones that sprout relationships and end in a blissful manner. One where you can both share ideas without ego getting in the way. One where you can both show how stupid you are but show how intelligent you are without shame. The thing that holds conversations back is the ego. You being scared to look like an idiot. You being scared to, admit that you didn't go to work last week, or admit that you stayed home for longer than you should, admit that you procrastinated, admit that you didn't go to the gym, that you've been spending too much money, that you engaged in that bad habit. We're not always perfect, and people know that. I feel like we'd all be a lot happier if we just admitted to each other how fucked up we were or how stupid we were in conversations. I spoke on this before, but your uniqueness and that weird thing that you may have in your head that you want to say but feel like it may not be appropriate is what makes you more attractive in conversations. It's what breaks the conversations from being an interview to two people actually connecting. The more you fear being judged, the more you think about yesterday's atrocity or tomorrow's atrocity, is the less you'll be able to connect within conversation. There's other great speakers who penetrate. Even when they speak to thousands, it feels personal. You think that even with all those eyes on them, they'd have to rely on some sort of notes, or maybe they'd fold under pressure. The fact of the matter is, they're not cowering away from their pressure, they're running towards it. They speak with intention, not because they think you need to hear it, but because they need to get it off their chest. They believe and trust what they're saying so much more than their ability to articulate, and that's what allows them to flow. When Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream," that wasn't just a few words, but an echo from his and many hearts that received his message. His words bred hope because he said what the hopeless didn't have the courage to say. His words not only represented a minority, but they represented trust and authenticity. Something that articulation and sounding smart couldn't buy. Had he have overthought, and you would have got a speech all about statistics and numbers that you really don't care about. Something that doesn't penetrate, but informs you. But what is truly intelligent? Using numbers to make yourself sound smart, or using vulnerability, charisma, and attitude to build a connection? It's been your boy, Men's TV, bringing you back 900 thoughts from the dome to your phone. I'm out.